Before I'd got into town, I'd found out that the two friends that had been asking me to stay with them lived maybe 2 blocks apart. They hadn't been close before and aren't now, but it gave me options for couch surfing and allowed me time to spend with different friend groups while there. After we came back from the diner, the middle sister and I took a walk to the apartment of my other best friend / ex-boyfriend and his current girlfriend of 6 years. We'd been planning to meet up together the following night, but considering we were so close, it just seemed right to stop by for a minute and let them know I'd made it. He and I have a complex friendship, but one of the closest I've ever had. We dated 3 months in high school when I was in 10th grade and he was in 11th. The year before my dad moved me in with my grandparents out of town, before my abuser took my virginity, before I'd abruptly moved south and then out of state. Neither of us to this day have been able to put into words exactly why our connection is the way it is. Like, brother and sister maybe, but not quite. Maybe linked somehow spiritually or something. We're both very happily in relationships, so it's not so much a case of leftover feelings. It just is. We respect each other. We enjoy each other's company. We bond over our mutual interests in the occult and our conversations over the general state of things. I was really happy to see him and his girlfriend again. They'd moved out my way a few years back and returned to this place when it didn't pan out. I'd felt bad at the time, but admittedly the constant threat of earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, and the Hanford site in the south does wear you thin after a while. I gave them both hugs, and we said we'd meet up the following night. I went back to the small house 2 blocks over with the rest of my friends. The next morning I got up early and met with him over coffee. We went to a place I hadn't been since high school, a cafe that shared a door with a pawn shop. Dad used to take me there after church. We got our drinks and found a spot outside. I tried catching him up on things that had happened more recently, which was easier than it had been with my other friends. I had far less to explain to him. A lot of it was actually talking about the previous day and the weirdness of reliving church experiences with the now anti-religious pastor's kids. His dad never made him go to church, but when we'd met, our mutual dislike for the religious dogma that surrounded adults in the town was one of the first things that made us friends. He talked about moving back, how he worked at a newer restaurant in town, but had finished his degree online finally and was hoping to find a better job. We walked down to the lake and back. He pointed out little things that had changed along the way. There was a sushi place now that was surprisingly good for being so far away from the coast. There was new art sculptures around the sidewalks, though some of the old ones had been moved to different spots. New hotels had been springing up around town. The day before, my friend had told me there was a rumor about the Jehovah's Witness convention being held and the hotels being used to host attendees. By the time we came back, my other friends had woken up and he had to go to work, so I walked back to the house. That night we all went out drinking, playing Never Have I Ever. We all were 5 or more rounds of the game in. We'd all grown up a lot, but somehow now we were better for it. My 2 best friends, their partners, the middle sister and her partner, and me. I wish that Rick could have been there, but even then at that moment, it was impossible to feel alone. I went back to the apartment that night, and for the first time in almost a month, I actually slept.